Welcome to The Give, a Lawrence First and Goal Clinic podcast, where we share lessons from coaches who are giving back to the game. Today's episode features Justin Lustig, special teams coordinator at Penn State, and this conversation gets right into one of the most important parts of coaching special teams, creating buy-in, building culture, and teaching players to play with total effort. Before we jump in, a quick reminder, more coaching education is available year-round at lfgclinic.com. With the Premium Pass, coaches get access to full clinic presentations, coordinator schools, and a growing library built to help you lead, teach, and win. Now here's Coach Lustig on building special teams that players believe in.
I'm going to start with this. I'm just going to read this off, and it's something that I've collected over the years, and I think it's really powerful. But in real programs, standards are set, relationships are built, life lessons are taught, little things are coached, academics are emphasized, fundamentals are developed, good habits are formed, goals are achieved, lives are changed, legacies are left. I start with that as a reminder to all of us on how impactful what we do is to the young men that we work with at the high school and the college level. And I also share that with number one. I believe we're doing that right now at Penn State, and that's really powerful. It's something that I want to be a part of. And I also want to make a shout out to I've got two boys, and my youngest son just finished up his high school football career here at State College High School, and will actually be joining us as a walk-on at Penn State next fall. But he had the opportunity to compete with the State College High football staff, and those guys built the program the right way. And I saw firsthand the impact that those high school coaches had on my son, and it made such a tremendous difference in his life. So I appreciate and respect all the guys that are listening and what you guys do. So to get started, we're going to hit some kind of big picture things first, special teams wise, and then dive into some drill work. So to start, I think it always starts with special teams is getting the guys to buy in, motivating them to perform, making them understand how important it is, both for the team as well as for their future success. So it starts with that. Next, we kind of dive into like, why are they critical plays? Well, the first thing, and I think special teams is a great way for you as an assistant coach to echo the message of the head coach. And so these are things that our head coach talks about all the time, ball security, explosive plays, and then field position. But really, those are the three ways that we can critically impact the game on special teams. So I'm going to kind of touch on all three of those things and share a couple things. So the first is obviously ball security. We say the ball is the program, and a interesting stat that we did a study on, but that I think you can do for your own programs. But since 2005, Penn State is 20-3 when creating one or more takeaways on special teams. So really, that's showing how critical it is for our special teams to create takeaways and obviously protect the football. And then explosive plays, since 2005, Penn State is 24-3 when creating one or more explosive plays in the opponent. So again, the value of ball security, the value of explosive plays, we know how critically important that is to our football teams. But from a special team slant, how can we expose our players to the importance of it in those phases? And then finally, the yardage battle, field position. The previous two seasons, Penn State is 12-3 when winning the yardage battle, and we have ways that we calculate that. Next, motivation. So, in the beginning here, I was trying to explain like how we look at it big picture wise, and now motivation, how we try to motivate guys individually and how we try to show them at our level how critically important special teams is for their personal development and their future. So we've created probably like 50 of these slides, and we're fortunate, obviously, at Penn State over the years to have a lot of guys playing in the NFL. So these are basically slides that are showing our players how critical special teams were in their careers. So Brenton Strange was a very great tight end for us here, was a second-round pick, 61st pick overall in 2023. And now this is talking about his NFL career, but he had 308 snaps of offense and 157 snaps of special teams as a rookie player in the NFL. So what we're showing there is really, pointing at the guys that are kind of the high level players on our team. So you might be a starting tight end or a starting tailback at Penn State or a starting receiver or starting DB that thinks that they're going to be a high round draft pick, and they may be. But I also want them to know that you may not be playing a lot of special teams for us your senior year, but you're going to have to do that at the next level. And I think Brenton Strain's a good example of that. Obviously in 23, 308 offensive snaps and had to play 157 plays of special teams as a rookie. So going through the drills, paying attention in the meetings, being a senior leader is going to be real important for us special teams wise. And then you can see his second year, his special teams numbers actually increased in the NFL. Another example, and again, we've got tons of these that we use, but Nate Stupar, you can look on the right there, as a freshman, 0 starts, as a redshirt freshman, 0 starts on defense, sophomore, 0 starts, started to play a little bit more his senior year on defense. And so was not a high round pick, played a ton of special teams in college and made his name on special teams as an NFL player. So played in the NFL for 8 years, primarily as a special teams player. And then we like to throw kind of the money on there that they've earned, to just point out that, hey, you may not be a guy that is a first or second round pick, but you can make a career out of special teams, and it's got to start in college. I think you can use this at the high school level. Similarly, if you wanted to create slides, you could potentially show some guys that maybe went through your program that were like 4 or 5 star or 3-star recruits that made it to the next level, and show them that oftentimes they're going to be either made or found on special teams at the next level in college. So, for example, if I've got a 3-star kid or 4-star kid that graduated from my high school program 2 years ago, look up what he did in college, and most likely his freshman and sophomore years, he was playing a lot on special teams before he got on the field on offense and defense. And I think that's a way to motivate the guys to give great effort, to be locked into meetings, to take it really serious. I think that's really important. A couple other slides that we've done, again, to motivate our players, just some simple things, but this is the Kansas City Chiefs kickoff team from a couple years ago, and all we did was put their salaries on there. So you can see there's some big numbers on there. That shows you that those are some high round picks. Those are probably starters on offense or defense. So it's a mix of kind of really high salaries, and they're all high, but obviously from $5 million to $940,000, a lot of guys making a lot of money covering kickoffs in the NFL. And then another one that's an example for our players here at Penn State, our punt unit, like most teams, is going to play most of your best players. In 2022, this was our starting punt unit. So 9 of the 11 punt starters are playing in the NFL. So I think that's kind of cool graphics that can grab the attention of the players, can take 30 seconds to show in a meeting, but we're constantly doing that to try to just overemphasize the importance of special teams, not only for our program and our program success, but also for our players' individual futures.
We'll get back to Coach Lustig in a moment, but first, this episode is brought to you by lfgclinic.com. LFG Clinic is not just a 3-day event anymore, it's year-round learning for serious coaches. With the Premium Pass, you get access to full presentations from the clinic, a growing library of coaching education in Lauren's library, over 500 presentations, and practical content you can use during the season, including game planning tips, drills, and teaching ideas from coaches at every level of football. Whether you're building your system in the offseason or looking for answers during the season, Lawrence First and Goal gives you the place to keep learning all year round. Visit lfgclinic.com and learn more about the Premium Pass. Now, let's get back to Coach Lustig.
Okay, so now we're going to transition into some philosophy, big picture stuff, and then, like I said, we'll finish off with some drill work. So the one thing I'll make a couple comments. I think as a young coach, I remember as a younger coach at Ball State, I had a local news reporter ask me about my philosophy, and I always kind of remember that moment and being a little embarrassed on how I answered that question, because I never really thought it through. And I think that question is so big that you really have to think it through. You have to have a detailed answer. And I think it's also good for you to really sit down and spend a week and think about what are the things that you really want to hang your hat on. And being able to answer that question succinctly is really important, not only for your communication with your players and your staff, but also when you get the opportunity to interview or interview with for another job or interview with media. It'll help you answer those questions a little bit better. So what we've come up with over the years is really our philosophy and the things that we believe on. I've kind of broken into three things. So what's our culture? I kind of see that as falling under our philosophy. What's our scheme philosophy? And then fundamentals. So I'll start with culture. If you asked what our culture here is on special teams, I would want our players to answer total effort. And we've defined total effort in four different ways: the start, the middle, the finish, and the return. These things are things that I gained from working with Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, and have kind of turned them into my own and turned them into a special teams thing. But I think these are things that you can carry over really into any phase of your life. And I like to joke around with our players. But if you're going on a date, you want to give total effort on that date. And what we talk about in the start is being ready before you begin. So, for example, on a date, I better have my car gassed up. I better have my car cleaned up. I better have a reservation. I better be communicating well with my date on where we're going. If we're going to Applebee's, I better not tell her we're going to some nice steakhouse and then I end up taking her to Applebee's. She better understand what she's getting into. So you got to be ready before you begin. Football wise for us and special teams wise for us, that means I know the call, I know my alignment, I know my stance. Callbacks here and language, the way we run things on special teams is really important to me. I rarely will run a meeting where I'm the only one talking, and our meetings and our system is filled with all these callbacks. So when I tell our guys, all right, what's total effort? They'll say the start, the middle, the finish, the return. If I ask our guys, what's the start? Their callback is ready before you begin. So I could at any point, talk about a drill, talk about a play, and evaluate that from a total effort lens. And when I start, I'll say, what's the start? And they say, ready before you begin. So the start for us, again, is knowing the call, knowing the alignment, knowing the stance. The middle is the fight. So we talk to our guys about this is the meat of the play. This is how we want you to play. A couple of the things that we talk about a lot is we fight for every blade of grass in this program and on these special teams. Every single play is important. We're fighting for every blade of grass, all the field position that we can gain. Another part of this middle is turning confusion into aggression. Another thing that's I feel really strongly about, big picture wise, is getting the guys to play fast, getting them to not think when they're playing. They should be thinking before the play happens, ready before you begin. I'm thinking about the call. I'm thinking about my keys. But once that play goes, I'm going. And if there is any confusion, turn it into aggression and just start playing fast and physical. So the middle is the fight. So that would be the callback for this. What's the middle? The fight. The other value of special teams, and I think I don't know that I necessarily believed in this early in my career, but as I got older, I have bought into it. But I believe that the opportunity to create momentum for your team is huge, and especially on special teams. So the last phase of total effort is the return. So when we say the return, the guys say recycle positive energy. So that's celebrating with your teammates. And as we celebrate with our teammates and we play with a lot of energy, it creates a lot of energy in our stadium. And in turn, that energy in the stadium gets translated into our offense and defense who's running onto the field after we executed on special teams. All right. And again, recycling that positive energy. So we want to see that happen on all of our units, playing with an edge. And again, I think these are things that I'll track even when we're doing winter workouts. So I'll use this and I'll maybe pull a couple clips of our winter workouts when we're doing like old school mat drills. And I may look at a guy in the back of the line, and I'm talking about total effort now, and I see him not paying attention to the guys in front of him, not paying attention to the guys that are repping in front of him, or maybe not paying attention to the coach in front of him. You're not ready before you begin. You're doomed for that drill. Obviously, your effort throughout the drill, how you finish through the line. I think those are things that talked about all the time. But then how do you finish? When you finish through that line, are you recycle positive energy? Are you starting to give high fives to your teammates, getting them going as you finish that drill? Are you finishing the drill with great energy and great passion? And I think those things can be drilled in your drill work, in your off-season work, and then obviously on the field on game day. The last thing I'll share with you guys is we end every meeting here on special teams at Penn State with a quiz. So the way we do that is there's basically going to be a quiz on the material that was presented in that meeting.
That was Coach Justin Lustig, Penn State's special teams coordinator here on The Give. This episode shared one free lesson from his full presentation. To go deeper, visit lfgclinic.com and check out the Premium Pass, where you get access to full clinic sessions, year-round learning, and the upcoming Special Teams Coordinator School. If this episode helped you, subscribe to the podcast, share it with other coaches, and keep passing the game forward. Thank you for listening.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.